It's Paperball, back at it again with another video. I know it's been a while, but Copa America is just around the corner. In fact, kicks off today, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time between Brazil and Bolivia. But let's get started with our preview, starting with Group A. Now in Group A, we have Bolivia, Venezuela, Brazil, and Peru. Obviously, the narrative in this one is going to be Brazil's the host. It's in the tournament's in Brazil. Brazil's ranked third in the world, and they're going to have to prove a point because last time they hosted a tournament, as we all remember, 2014, they lost 7-1 to Germany. Now, national embarrassment, I know, isn't on the agenda this time around for Brazil, so they'll be looking to prove the doubters and prove to Brazil, to the Brazilian people, that they can actually perform in competitions. As in the 2018 World Cup, they didn't do so well, getting knocked out in the quarterfinals by Belgium in a very shallow performance, and they didn't do well in the last two editions of the Copa America either, which were both won by Chile. So they're in Group A, which is, in my opinion, the easiest group because they're the hosts, so they're obviously gonna get an easier group. But they have Neymar out injured as he got injured in a friendly match for a week ago. That's not a good look, and Brazil will be eager to prove themselves that they can perform without Neymar. And I think Brazil can because they have a lot of quality attackers in those positions. So let's get right into the first fixture. The opening match will take place today between Brazil and Bolivia. Now Bolivia don't have much history as a club, as a team. They don't win Copa Americas. They don't win games in Copa Americas, and they're not that strong of a team. And I think Brazil will be eager to put out a very good performance in this opening match. And obviously, Brazil's a very attacking team. They don't know how to defend, so the best way to attack for a Brazilian team is to, excuse me, the best way to defend for a Brazilian team is to be on the attack. And with players like Gabriel Jesus, Firmino, they can do that. So I think Brazil will take this one 3-0, as they'll be eager to put up a good performance in this one. Then we got Venezuela and Peru, who I think will be the two teams contending for that second place spot in their group. Venezuela are strong, as we saw. Recently, they actually beat the United States team 3-0, which is a very great performance by their standards. And Peru, on the other hand, historically made their first World Cup in a long time in this latest edition of the World Cup in 2018 Russia. They played well in the group stage, but unfortunately, that for them, that wasn't enough to get them past. But in this match, I think Peru will take this 2-1. They'll barely win it, but I think they have enough quality with players like Ramos to edge Venezuela just barely. Now, the next match is Bolivia versus Peru. I think it's going to be a relatively comfortable match for Peru. Peru know how to deal with teams like Bolivia. I think they'll do this easily 3-1. And then the next match is Brazil-Venezuela, which I think will be an entertaining match where Venezuela know they really need the points. Brazil, knowing that a win would guarantee them qualifications to the quarterfinals. I think it's going to be a 0-0 at the half. I think Brazil will do well to control the game, control the tempo. They'll get goals. They'll get two, in my opinion. But I think Venezuela will do enough to nail a goal because this Brazilian defense honestly it's not that capable. Now, the next match is Peru versus Brazil. I think Peru will once again, like Venezuela, put up a challenge. But this Brazil side with Jesus, Firmino, Willian, Casemiro, and in general, I think they'll be enough to take out Peru. So I'll say 2-0. And the last match is Bolivia-Venezuela, and I don't think Bolivia is going to go out with all three losses in this tournament. There's no way it's going to happen. And Venezuela isn't that stronger a team, so it's very realistic they can get a draw or the 1 point. So I think they'll get the draw 1-1 against Venezuela. On to Group B, which includes Colombia, Argentina, Qatar, and Paraguay. And the obvious narrative for this one is that Argentina and Messi has not won an international trophy with his country. He needs this to be cemented as the greatest of all time in the eyes of many. And he's made 4 finals with his country. He made the Copa America final earlier on in the decade. 2014, he made the World Cup final, which they lost to Germany. 2015, they made the Copa America final, which he lost to Chile on penalties. And the year after, once again, he lost the Copa America final to Chile on penalties. So he's come close on many occasions, but never been able to win it. Colombia, on the other hand, are very strong, coming off of a solid 2018 World Cup performance where they advanced to the round of 16 and lost to England on penalties, but they played very well in that match, and sadly, they didn't have James Rodriguez for that, and I think that really contributed to why they lost to England. And for Qatar, Qatar's narrative, they're one of the invited teams. They're coming into this one as the Asian champions, and rather with dominant figures. They won the Asian tournament with 7 wins out of 7, and only conceding 1 goal in that process, with Al Mu'izz Ali being their star player in the attack. Now, starting off, I think the opening match of the group, Argentina and Colombia. I think that Colombia will they'll do enough to beat Argentina, and Argentina will be caught off guard. And we remember them during the World Cup. They lost 3-0 to Croatia. They lost to all these teams, and I don't see them being able to upset Colombia. I don't see them even being able to get a draw off Colombia. I think Colombia will get a 2-1 win in that match. Next, we have Paraguay Qatar. In this match, we see the Asian champions take on Paraguay. Paraguay is they're not a very strong side, but they're strong on the day sometimes. And when it comes to Copa Americas, they usually perform. But I think the surprise of Qatar, because Qatar is a very unfamiliar opponent. In fact, last time they met, Qatar actually won, and back then they weren't even that good. Now they're Asian champions with one of the best defenses in Asia. Probably, well, definitely the best defense in Asia, but one of the best defenses around that you can play in an international sport right now. I think they'll do enough to win 3-1 against Paraguay. Next, we have Colombia Qatar, and I think Qatar will give them one hell of a match. They'll give him a strong performance, but I don't see it being enough to stop the likes of James Rodriguez, Romelu Falcao, and just overall take down this team. I think it will be a close 2-1 victory for Colombia. Next, we have Argentina-Paraguay, where I think Messi will have a strong response after losing the opener to Colombia in hopes to get Argentina something in this competition. I think that they'll beat Paraguay 2-1 in that match, and I think Aguero will have to get a goal in that one, and Messi will have to contribute. Next, we have Qatar, Argentina, and I think Argentina with Messi will definitely perform, but they'll waste chances, is what I'm saying, just like they did against Iceland at the World Cup. And I think Qatar will be clinical in their attack, so I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. And the way that Qatar plays just suits playing against a team like Argentina because of Argentina's pure reliance on raw attack. Lastly, we have Colombia, Paraguay, and I see this being no contest, no contest whatsoever. Colombia 3-0 easily with that. And then we move on to our final group, which consists of Japan, the other invitee to this tournament, who also finished runners-up in the Asian Cup to Qatar, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Chile. Now, the opening match is between Uruguay and Ecuador, and I think Uruguay, with their very skilled performance in the World Cup, they have the best defense coming into this tournament of any team, with Jimenez and Godin in their backline, who apply their trade at Atletico Madrid currently. I think they'll be strong again in this tournament defensively, which will take them a long way into this tournament. I think they'll beat Ecuador in the opener 2-0 because they have the defense to do it, and they have the two key attackers, Suarez and Cavani, who always take their chances when they play for their country. Then we have Japan-Chile, which I think this will be an entertaining match with spark, as Chile are the back-to-back defending Copa America champions, but they're not that same team. They're a lot older. They're a lot less fast. They're not as fast anymore. They're not as clinical anymore. Sanchez is dropping in form. Vidal isn't as good as he once was. So I think Japan can draw this match 2-2. Next, we have Uruguay-Japan on the fixture lists. And with Uruguay's solid defense and great attacking spirit, I think they'll score a lot of goals. They'll get a lot of chances and they'll score. I think they'll score 3. And Japan, still, with the organized system and players like Yoshida in their lineup, I think they'll do enough to nab a goal somewhere in the 90 minutes of that match. Then we have Ecuador-Chile. I think Chile, coming off of a draw with Japan, will do what it takes to get past Ecuador, which isn't much, to be honest, in this current edition of the tournament, because this Ecuador side isn't that strong. So I think 2-1 win for Chile. Then we have a Chile-Uruguay matchup, and Uruguay, as I said, as I've been touting, this very impressive defense, which isn't very common in international football anymore. So I think that Uruguay will take it 2-0 against them. And then the final match will be Ecuador-Japan. Once again, as I said with prior team, I don't think Ecuador's going to go out losing all their games. I think they'll do enough to get a draw against this Japanese side 1-1, which concludes the group stage. And for a quick roundup, that means that Brazil finished top of Group A with 9 points, Peru finished second with 6 points, Venezuela third with 1 point, and Bolivia fourth with 1 point. Group B, Colombia finished first with 9 points, Qatar finished second with 4 points, Argentina finished third with 4 points, and Paraguay finished fourth with 0 points. Then in Group C, Uruguay finished first with 9 points, Chile finished second with 4, Japan finished second with 2, and Ecuador finished fourth with 1 point to their name. Now, in the way Copa America works, top 2 teams from each group qualify, and then 2 of the 3 third place teams from their groups qualify. And with the way third place teams are as they currently stand, Argentina will finish first out of them, and Japan finishing second, meaning the quarterfinals will be Brazil versus Argentina, Peru versus Qatar, Colombia versus Chile, and Uruguay versus Japan. Now, Brazil versus Argentina. That's a match for the ages. It's the classic rivalry in international football. In Brazil, I don't see Brazil slipping up. I know they've slipped up in the past in international tournaments, 2014 World Cup, 2015 Copa America, 2016 Copa America, 2018 World Cup, but I don't see them bottling in their own country against Argentina. And although Messi is arguably the greatest player to ever play the sport, I don't see him being enough alone to carry this team across the finish line in this one. I see Brazil taking it in the quarterfinals and reaching their semifinals. Then we have Peru versus Qatar. Something about this Qatar side doesn't tell me they're going to go out to Peru. Peru have talent. They reached their first World Cup in a long time. But Qatar, coming into this Asian Cup champions with the rock solid defense they have, I think can upset the odds and beat Peru just slightly. Maybe after extra time, maybe penalties, but I think they have what it takes. With a coach like Felix Sanchez who knows how to game manage, and a player like Al-Mu'izz Ali who knows how to score goals when it matters, I think they'll do just enough to upset this Peru side. Then we have Colombia-Chile, which I think will be a very comfortable matchup for Colombia, and James Rodriguez will just go wild on this Chile side. Colombia will advance. Similarly with Uruguay-Japan, who will be rematching as they were in the same group, I think Uruguay will take this one 2-0 because Uruguay have that defense to go without conceding against teams like Japan. Then that means the semifinals are Brazil versus Qatar and Colombia versus Uruguay. Now, out of Brazil and Qatar, I think Qatar will give them one hell of a match, but in the end of the day, they're Qatar. They may be the best Middle Eastern team, they may be the best team in Asia, but against a team like Brazil, against the greatest team of all time, Brazil, I don't think they have what it takes. They might take it to extra time. It might be a very interesting match, but I think Brazil will win it in the end 2-1. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have Colombia-Uruguay. Colombia are a very attacking team. They'll get a lot of chances in this one, but with a goalkeeper like Uruguay's, and a defense like Uruguay's, and a midfield like Uruguay's, I don't see them conceding to Colombia. I think this is going to be a very entertaining match for the viewer, but I think Uruguay will take this one with a 1-0, as they will be crucial, taking their chances, being a more experienced side, and Colombia, unfortunately for them, won't be able to do that. But now, all those results set up a Brazil-Uruguay final in Brazil, and hosts generally don't lose finals. I don't see Brazil losing this one either. I know it's Uruguay. I know they have a strong defense, strong keeper, strong striking duo, but their midfield isn't as world-renowned. Granted, Brazil's defense isn't as world-renowned, but in the back with goalkeepers like Ederson and Alisson, they'll be very set up at the back to make sure they don't concede as many goals. And with attackers with the pace of Jesus and Firmino, although they don't have the injured Neymar, I think that'll be enough, especially in their own country, to take down this Uruguay side, who, let's not forget, only made it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. So I think Brazil will win this Copa America and they'll be crowned Copa America champions, which is something they really need to build up momentum ahead of the 2022 World Cup, which will be in Qatar, in fact. So I think Brazil will be champions of the Copa America, which means that Brazil will ride into the World Cup as Copa America champions, unless they do another one between now to the World Cup, which is still unclear, as Coimbra is still organizing this competition, because supposedly this is supposed to be the last time this takes place at an odd number a year. So that'll be interesting how that scheduling works. And yes, that's about it for all the predictions we have for Copa America. There'll be more videos for all international football this season. We have the Euro Nations League, which wrapped up. We have Copa America starting today, 15 minutes actually from the time of recording of this video. We have the Gold Cup, which kicks off tomorrow between Canada and Martinique. And we have the AFCON, which is probably the biggest one besides Copa America, to be honest. Well, thank you all for watching. Paper ball rolling out.